Hello, good morning everyone and welcome to Rail Live 2024. It's brilliant to see you all here today, the early birds. Well done for making it in and getting through the traffic. I am Daisy Chapman-Chamberlain. I am Innovation Manager at East West Rail, and from next month I will be joining Transport for the North, so keep your eyes posted if we're not already connected on LinkedIn. And I'm really delighted to be welcoming so many fantastic experts to our panel today, looking at how we attract new people to the railway and address the crucial skills drain and shortage impending in our industry. So all things recruitment, training, and retention. So we'll go down the line, we'll have our speakers introduce ourselves, we've got a few questions that we're going to be discussing, and then I will be opening up to the audience for any questions, so do be having a think if there's anything you would like to ask our extremely knowledgeable panel today. So, over to you.
Thank you, Daisy. Neil Robertson, Chief Executive National Skills Academy for Rail, who look at all aspects of training and competency and things. We also look after the very excellent rootsintorail.org on behalf of the industry. Thank you.
Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Caroline Lee. I'm Senior Social Value Advisor at Volker Rail. I wear multiple hats, but I lead on the education engagement for our organisation to try and attract the next set of talent into the industry.
Hi, I'm Lorna Gibson. I'm the Managing Director of QTS Training, which is a part of the QTS Group. I'm also Chair of Women in Rail Scotland, and I'm Vice Chair of the Rail Industry Association Scotland also, where I'm heavily involved in the skills and diversity work that they're doing. Through all the work that I do, it's all about trying to bring new people, new talent into industry and develop those already in.
Yeah, thank you for having me this morning, firstly, Daisy. I'm Sam Riley. I work for a company called Advanced TRS. We provide niche recruitment resource for the rail industry. Myself, I specialise in digital engineering, so cybersecurity, systems engineering and software engineering recruitment. I'm actually part of the Young Rail Professionals as well as the external business engagement lead there, helping continue young professionals' careers in the railway and give them an area to network as well.
Thanks for having me. My name is Bonnie Price. I'm the CEO of Young Rail Professionals, which is a not-for-profit which is based for promotion of the rail industry to those outside, helping develop those who are in the industry, either through sort of vertical moves or just knowledge sharing, and then inspiring those who are still within the industry and without the industry to get more involved.
Thank you so much. Like I said, we really could not have a better panel for this session. But we're going to kick off with a really crucial question that I feel we don't often address, we don't think about often enough in this industry. Is rail actually an attractive career option in 2024 and looking to the years ahead? Do people want to work in this industry? Do younger people want to work in the industry? Do a more diverse range of people want to work in this industry? And why or why not? So I think we'll start with Neil and head down the line. If anyone wants to jump in, feel free.
I've got two contradictory answers for you, Daisy.
It's always the way.
So when, as part of our research for Roots into Rail, we asked young people how many of you would be interested in joining the rail industry, we got 30%. So not very many. Then when we advertise apprenticeships, we get hundreds of applicants. So if you're a recruitment professional, like Caroline and others, and Sam, you might say the same thing, that when it comes to looking for people, we don't seem to have that big a problem if we actually market apprenticeships in the right way. And apprenticeships are a distinctive thing because they're a brand in themselves, aren't they? So parents value apprenticeships. Young people think they know what apprenticeships are. So I think when we market apprenticeships, we're sometimes selling on the back of apprenticeships, not on the back of rail. But having said that, I think a mixed bag, but try as hard as we can. We still really struggle to persuade women that this is an industry for them. And if you came today and saw all the fantastic stuff that's here and looked around, you would not, it doesn't feel like some. And then you go to a Women in Rail event, which I'm delighted to be involved with as well. It's totally different environment. So we've got a lot to do, if that's maybe the answer to your question.
That makes complete sense.
Oh, I would say yes, it is. Before I joined rail industry, I was in the traditional building construction industry, and that did a lot of apprenticeships, but it's a lot of short-termism. So you got a contract, it's for 2 years, take on somebody, get them through the apprenticeship, get rid. At least with rail, it's for long-term careers. I think the biggest challenge is not enough young people know of rail as an industry. So that's where we do a lot of work. So for our education engagement, we've got an education ambassadors program where I've got up to about 40 members of staff across the business that support me on that education engagement, so that I'm not the only face they see. So they can see apprentices, year in industry, graduates, senior people that have been in the industry all their life, people that have joined the industry from a different career, so they can see that it's multiple ways of getting there and it's no one route. We do a lot of work with schools where we ask them at the beginning what they think of rail. And number 1, train driver. Number 2 is somebody in a ticket office. By the end of it, we've told them of hundreds of jobs just in our company alone. So that's why we're trying to make sure they understand that rail isn't what they think it is. And there's lots of other industries where they can get skills and still come to rail. So I think it is attractive. It's just about getting that message out there and make sure people are aware of it.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. I used to do a lot of education work in rail myself, and I've always said every job that exists outside rail, from the technical to the creative to the managerial, also exists in this sector in one form or another, and I think it's about communicating that outwards, isn't it?
So I absolutely agree with everything that Neil and Caroline has said. We also do a lot with education. We go into schools and colleges, and young people, it's just not even on their radar. They've no idea what the rail industry is. When you talk to them about the fantastic opportunities, and as you said, Daisy, you know, really any job that you want to do, you can do in the rail industry. They do start to become a bit more interested. I think it is an attractive place to work for people like us that are already here and see the benefits of it. But it's not attracting people, and particularly young people, because they just don't know about it. They don't understand it. And I think we're having to compete with a lot of other industries just now for the talent that we want to bring in. And the other industries are much better at selling themselves than we are. We don't sell ourselves as an attractive industry at all. It's improving slightly, but we've got a huge amount of work to do. I saw a video recently that was done by the Civil Engineering Contractors Association Foundation, which is for a bit like the YRP. And it was an amazing video. And it just totally had the right message to attract young people. And I'm sorry, but I don't think we really have that. And I think it's something that as an industry we really need to look at and say, how can we get that message over? The other thing that I think is really difficult is people like us going into schools, colleges, unis and talking, you know, we can talk it up, we can show videos, we can show different things. But it's really hard to actually explain the industry. And we've done, and Neil, you were there last year when we did our Future of Rail event, and we've just done another one up at our headquarters in Scotland, where we had 300 school pupils in. So we did that last year as well, in Derby actually, and the year before in Scotland. And bringing them in, and we've got all the plant up on the track, we've got things happening, but they can actually see it, touch it, feel it, they can talk to people that work in the industry. It makes a massive difference. So you'll have 300 school people that come in and don't really know much about rail, probably aren't that interested in it, and they go away absolutely buzzing, to use one of their words, really interested and wanting to get into it. So I think we just need to work as an industry a lot harder at making it an attractive industry.
I think that's a really interesting way of phrasing it as well. We're attractive, but we're not attracting, is a really interesting kind of definition there as well. And I think one of the biggest issues we have too is the way rail is portrayed in the media. Because tell me the last time in the mainstream media you saw a positive rail news story. Of course, bad news sells, so why would you? But looking at that as a complete outsider, you would assume that the rail industry was in complete chaos. Don't put your hand up and agree with that, by the way. Don't bring the tone down. But it's about the way we're presented externally to other sectors and to people who are non-rail as well. So, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, actually, from what everyone said. I mean, I speak to friends, I speak to family, and when I say I work within the rail industry, the first thing that comes up is obviously the strikes that
Are
happen
you on
quite
strike?
frequently.
Are you going on
It's,
strike?
you know, so you're at fault for the delays I had on my train to London a couple of weeks ago. It's that sort of correlation that you get straight away. I think for people who actually understand the rail industry in a bit more detail, that's completely the reverse, really. I speak to so many people on the daily, and sort of the reason why potentially people want to get into the railway is in a lot of other industries. You look at defence, you look at nuclear. There's a lot of engineering and infrastructure industries that you can't actually talk and you can't really see sort of those tangible conclusions like you can in the railway. And I think that's something that makes the railway really attractive. Sort of being able to work on a project through its whole sort of fruition, from sort of early grip stages to latter grip stages, and see it through, and then actually be able to go, well, actually, this is the station that I've built, or this part of the track that we're on a train at the moment is, this is what my company have designed and built. So I think there really is that sort of attractiveness in the railway, and similar to what a couple of you guys have said as well. The sort of the scope of what you can do in the railway as well. There is that career path from sort of graduate level all the way to head of programs or head of engineering or head of commercial. There is that sort of stepping stones in place, and that career path that really you can go from sort of entry level to sort of technical director at a company or CEO of a company. And sort of the way the railway is structured, because of the skill shortage in it at the moment, all companies are really trying to push their staff to go through that sort of step and keep with them. And they want the best for their staff as well, because they need to retain their staff. So I think for anyone looking to get into the railway, or anyone in the railway at the moment, the sort of career perspectives that there are is really interesting.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that's quite rare, especially in kind of today's world, to have that progression. And it is very much, there's been a lot of change obviously in rail, but it is still an industry that you can be in for life. And I think that progression opportunity is really attractive. But again, it's about communicating that out and those opportunities and helping people understand that. So I completely agree.
I think to sort of try and be succinct with the question, at the moment it isn't an attractive industry to work in, but I think it's very easily going to be. I think there is going to be continued a bottleneck with the skills gap issue, that the industry will have to change and will have to grow and have to evolve, whether it likes it or not. And a lot of people that I speak to, especially within YRP, who came to rail as an aim from early on, the reasoning was not money and was not about benefits. It was about making a difference to their wider community. And that is such a driving factor for young people who, they've finished their schooling and education in a pandemic. They want that feeling of connectivity to their community. They want to make a difference. And, we are moving towards a lot more mass urban density with a mass transit model that's required in cities. And there is no ignoring that. We are going to have to go through that bottleneck with climate change. So is it attractive at the moment? Probably not. But I think it could very easily be if we focus more on trying to attract people whose driving force is making a difference in their community. We're not going to outpace, finance and tech in terms of, the pay scales that can be offered. It's not feasible right now, but it could be. And I think that's the exciting part, is that bottleneck. Growth is painful, but it's still growth. And I think that's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I think that there's the need is very pressing. And I think that leads on quite well to our next question, which I'll start with you with, Bonnie. Why does this actually matter? So why do we need a more diverse workforce? Why do we need the next generation? Is this just something that we're doing because we want to prove that we're inclusive, and we just want to do it because we want to be in the newspaper and say, oh, look at us, aren't we fantastic, aren't we welcoming? Is there a more practical reason that we need diversity in this industry?
Absolutely. So I think that firstly, there is a lot of people talking about inclusivity rather than truly being inclusive, which is a massive issue. And it harms the industry wide for that. But with a diversity of thought means a diversity of problem solving, and that comes from a diverse workforce. UCL have done, tons of studies on, having a more diverse workforce directly impacts your bottom line in a positive way. And I think that those are the sort of attributes we should be pushing to senior leadership. That it's not about, as you say, those newspaper articles. It's not about, that good press. Whilst that is all, it's good to be good, it does make a tangible difference, and that I think is key and shouldn't be missed.
I like that. It's good to be good. I really appreciate that.
Definitely, yeah. Expanding on what Bonnie said, obviously a diverse workforce, whether that's bringing more women into rail, bringing in more sort of ethnicity into the rail industry as well. It sort of brings new ideas, it brings new innovation, it brings sort of new perspectives on way of looking at things. But I think another big thing that we have to look at the rail industry that, to be honest, I don't think that we're massively great at the moment, I think other industries are a lot better at, is actually bringing in engineers or people on the commercial side from different industries. Because I know there's a lot of people from the railway that actually leave to go work in defence, go work in aviation, go work in nuclear and gas. But actually the scope of bringing in people from these sectors and bringing in these skills, where obviously the rail has a lot of great attributes, but these other sectors and other industries have other ideas and other great attributes to it as well, whether that's different standards, different sort of safety procedures, different processes. And actually, with the skill shortage of how it is at the moment, I think companies have to be a bit more understanding that instead of, for example, looking for an engineer who has worked 10 years in the railway, because that is very much what companies work for or look for at the moment when they are hiring, is actually, do they have those transferable skills from different industries that they can bring in, train up in 6 months the skills that they need for the railway, because at the end of the day we need to be bringing in new fresh talent as well. But the way with the railway is at the moment, we need sort of people now and right now. So sort of is the best way bringing in sort of new talent and developing that for 5 years' time, which is great and what we need to keep doing. But also the opportunity of bringing someone in, being able to train them up in 6 months, but they've actually had sort of 6 years in the aviation in the past. And I think that's something that really to diversify in rail is something that we've got to open up and sort of be a bit more aware to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, I think it's fair to say that rail is a very insular sector. We don't really even like to talk to each other, let alone people who are external to the railway. So actually being able to bring in those additional skill sets and being able to bring them directly in and having them in-house it's hugely beneficial. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure we're all aware of the stats with regard to the skill shortage, the increasing level of over 50s and the decreasing level of under 30s. So we have got a critical skill shortage that we need to tackle. If we try and do that just from white males, we're not going to be able to do that. But the other thing we end up with, and I spend a lot of time sitting around boardrooms with white males. No offence to white males, you're all very nice, but it's one mindset really. So I can sit around a boardroom table and listen to everyone agreeing about a great idea, and I look at it differently because I am different. So we need to have different mindsets around the boardroom tables. We need to change things in rail, and if it's the same people and the same type of people always making the decisions, nothing is going to change. So we absolutely need a diverse range of people in the industry. One, to have enough people, and two, to have the right people and drive innovation. It's proven, and we'll all know those stats, the increase in innovation where you have a diverse and inclusive workforce.
I completely agree, and I think that idea of having diversity of perspective is so important, and sometimes it sounds like it's in a fluffy way, but it's in a very real way, and it relates to safety. I mean, we've all heard stories about people wearing PPE that doesn't fit them, and then that leading to, at the very least, discomfort, at the very worst, an incident. One that I learned recently is actually with crash testing of rolling stock. Obviously, we don't tend to actually physically crash the thing, but when we do the simulated crash testing, there is only a requirement to simulate the impact of the crash on a 95th percentile male simulated dummy model. There's no requirement to simulate crash testing on anyone else, which is a really obvious problem, and that's for both passengers and staff and drivers. So you can see immediately how we don't understand the impact there, and it may well be the impacts are exactly the same, but until you test, how do you know? So there's a lot of work still to do. I completely agree that diversity of thinking is really important.
I just have to echo what everybody else said. So diversity thought is really important, but if you take it at the base level, we've got a big skill shortage. We're not attracting young people. We're not going to do that unless people can see themselves in that role. So absolutely, whenever we go to events and go to schools, we talk about the skill shortage, the age, the lack of females, the lack of diverse talent. But we use that to tell young people that gives them power because that's an industry that needs people, that's going to have vacancies, that are trying to attract a wider range. So actually, it's an industry that's got a lot of work to do, but they're trying to get in the right direction. But that's a benefit for those young people as well. And I think you need that diversity, but one of the things that we find we have to battle is it's not the young people, it's their parents. Their parents' views is very stereotypical.
Yep.
Don't want to work in rail because that's just high vis and on the track
You'd
side.
just be on strike.
Yes.
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, so when we do our education engagement, when it's the secondary school, we always try and make sure we engage the parents as well, because often it's just a very simple way of being able to show parents, actually, like we were saying before, there's hundreds of jobs in rail, there's every skill set in every industry you could get in rail, and parents just aren't aware. And then if you can get them switched on, it makes it a lot easier to attract the young people because you haven't got that barrier.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got some people I'd like to volunteer to be crash test dummies, by the way. So just
Okay, Neil, you give me the names, I will
give-
write them down.
Some of them are, no, I'll give you the names later. My colleagues have put it very well. We're doomed to success. Rail's going to grow. Bonnie's right. It's going to get bigger. Has to. Secondly, our people are old on average. And we've got a real pressing need to bring in double the number of people we're bringing. We're training about 2,500 apprentices a year. It needs to be 5,000. We need to double it. And, you know, frankly, sometimes I'm sitting on my computer and seeing that, I think, anybody, I'll take anybody. Robots, you know, there's a robot dog up there, I was thinking, what could we do with that? You know, we really need people. So, you know, but that is a massive opportunity, isn't it? When we really need people, and we really need people to change, put the two together, it's like, actually, people only change when they have to. Let's be honest, right? Most people are dull and risk averse. They don't change unless they have to. If people have to change, this gives me hope. This is a positive statement, by the way. So it doesn't sound positive. People have to change because they won't. We need more people. The alternative is what we do now. And this is to your point, wages. Aren't wages good in rail? This isn't a productivity workshop. If this was a productivity workshop, I'd be sitting here saying wages are bad because we're costing a fortune. It costs twice as much just for us to do anything than normal construction or some other thing. So we have to arrest the wage inflation. Sorry to all you young folks here rubbing their hands. I'm going to maintain my very high salary, above average salary. But if we don't, we'll price ourselves out the market. And that's the threat to rail growing, is our costs, our unit costs. And if it's more expensive, if it's so expensive, I was looking at a thing in America. They built some tunnels, and they were going to have a metro line, and they ran out of money. So what did they do? They put some tarmac on it and ran buses. And these are now electric buses. So can we argue with that? Not really. Why didn't they build a railway? Because it's so bloody expensive to build a railway. So we have to do something about unit costs, and half of the costs, more than half the costs, are people, you, which is good, because that means you're getting a salary. So, on diversity, just a subtle point, and there's two parts of diversity that we need to get better at. We've been talking quite a lot about gender, and implicitly gender and ethnicity, and we got a lot better and then we stopped. What happened, I can't fully explain it. We doubled the number of women, increased the number of people from ethnic minorities, and then it's leveled off. So we've got to get that going again. But it shows we can do it, right? Yeah. But the second thing is, we are a big cost to the government. And the government, whichever government, both of the major parties are saying the same thing in different language. If we don't reach out into the communities that we serve, right? Think of that euphemism. Reach out to the communities we serve. What that really means is taking daft young men and women from poor housing estates and giving them decent jobs. We've got good jobs. That reaching out is hard to do. When you do it, and HS2 are doing it in spades just now, with support of lots of suppliers. When you do that, you double your social value. So the conversation I'm having with politicians now is rail's about third best investment you can make in terms of social value. About third best. When on our day, we're second best. And here's what we can do to be second best. We'll never compete with, the BAE and Rolls-Royce and those big advanced manufacturing, but we can be second consistently. And that's the story we need to tell. And that is about the work that Lorna does fabulously, reaching out to local youngsters who have not got all the advantages of life and bringing them in through a process of training, work experience. Takes time, right? But the prize is massive. So that's another thing we need to bear in mind. Sorry if I got a bit carried away there.
Can I just come in on that, and particularly, Neil, as you've mentioned, the QTS Rail Skills Academy, which has been hugely successful since the 2 years when it started, with bringing young people that have got barriers to work into our industry. However, and talking about whether we're an attractive industry or not, we bring these young people in, they get more tickets, as they call them, than most people that are out there working. They get work experience, they get work on how to conduct themselves in the workplace. So that we basically turn out after 10 weeks a really employable person that's desperate to work in the rail industry. We bring employers to meet them, and we have been very successful in getting them into work. But the big problem is most of the employers do not want to offer them contracts. They want them to work under umbrella companies. They want them to work 0 hours. They might get a shift on a Saturday. They might get a shift on a Wednesday. These young people, most of them are independent because they have come from different backgrounds where they've maybe had challenges and not being supported by parents. They've got bills to pay the same as we have. So that's not an attractive industry, is it? Nobody wants to be told, well, I'll give you a job, but I can't tell you how often you can work or how much you'll earn. And that is a big issue we've got with these young people. We've worked with employers, and so far it's been really successful in getting them into proper contracts, but it's a struggle, and there's a lot of employers that just will not offer that to them. And until we sort that, we're not an attractive industry.
There's work to be done internally as well as the external presentation. It's got to be both at the same time. I completely
But
agree.
Daisy, can I just interrupt and say, that, yeah, I agree, there is work to be done internally, and that's maybe not a topic for today, in terms of contracts and all of that.
Yeah.
But the clue, I think, there was what Lauren said. If the people we want aren't coming to us, we have to go to them. Now, Routes into Rail, which is the general thing that we all support as an industry, that's about 100 grand a year, roughly. Okay? And the companies do their own stuff as well. The construction industry generally spend $1 million a year. And the army spend 10 million a year, those buggers. So they've got a big budget. And they go to the people they drag them in. In the old days, they literally dragged them in. Whereas now they use expensive marketing and adverts in the cinemas.
Are we advocating for press ganging people into rail here? Is that the plan?
No, let's learn from that, though, because that worked, right, for 500 years. But so what we really, if we need to go to where those people are, and you do that with colleges and other things, but and that costs money, and that's the problem, is that we're going to have to persuade people to invest a bit more so that we can find the people we want.
But once we've found them, we have to have a good offering for them, and that's where we are actually letting our industry down because we don't have that.
Either way, the problem is money.
Yeah.
Regardless of if it's internal or external. So I have one final question, which we've been discussing already, and then I'm going to open up to the audience. I'm sure you've all got plenty of questions. We keep talking about practical change. We keep talking about, we need to bring people in, and we've talked about routes into rail, and we've talked about outreach. We've got a lot of people in the audience here today from a really wide range of different companies. I'm sure everyone here would like to know, what can they practically do? So from the small SMEs with 2 people who are working in a garden shed, all the way up to the tier 1s of the world. If you could give people, and let's keep it around 30 seconds, 1 or 2 top tips, how can a company of any size actually start this journey of building a more diverse, inclusive workforce? And we'll start with you, Neil.
On Monday morning, take on an apprentice from a different background. And if you're not in a position to do that, mentor someone who has been brought in. At Women in Rail, we do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot. Mentoring makes a huge difference.
Brilliant. Thanks, Neil.
So for us, we do a lot of work with partnership working. So we use the Careers and Enterprise Company. So they have the relationship with the schools and the career leads. So it's not difficult to find schools to support. I get a lot of people saying, it's so hard to find a school. It's not. The schools are lining up and there's people there that can put you in touch. So just be visible. You don't have to give a whole day up. It can just be an hour or so. I think mentoring's a really big thing. We do a lot of targeted work with disadvantaged schools because we're in an area where there's lots of pockets of deprivation. They'll be less likely to think of rail because all they see is their parents. And if their parents are second, third generation without work or retail warehousing, they'll never have rail on their industry unless you get out there and show them.
Absolutely. And just as an aside as well, the school's engagement is absolutely so important. Everyone can get involved. A really easy way to get involved as well, alongside NSAR and alongside Young Rail Professionals and all the other amazing routes in, is work with your local community rail partnership. Your local community rail group, they are already working with the local schools. They already have the in. Go and talk to them. If you'd like to be connected into them, come and talk to me, because I will be able to introduce you.
Agree totally with what Neil and Caroline have said, and I suppose just to keep on the theme that I was talking about, make sure you are developing your young people that you do have, because if you're developing them and offering them career pathways, and that can be from young people that have come in from difficult backgrounds without qualifications. In the rail industry, that's what's so fantastic about it. There is still a career pathway there. So make sure you're offering that, because that starts to spread, word of that starts to spread to other young people, and they will be attracted to the industry.
Yeah, I think Neil, to be honest, was spot on when he said in the last point about that advertisement of the railway. The railway, it's got such complex integration of all systems and disciplines together that for the young people, it's such a niche career opportunity that really we need to be explaining this and telling them actually how much sort of technical skills and knowledge that you gain from working in the railway, and how that can be used in pretty much any other engineering industry that you have, because you see so many rail engineers or rail commercial people going into other industries in the future. So that point really needs to get across to the younger generation, that a career in rail can not just set you up for a career in rail, it can set you up for a career in sort of any engineering infrastructure discipline that there is.
Absolutely.
I think mine's in 2 points. One of them is building on what you said earlier, that there should be culturally a shift to be more willing to cross-pollinate at different levels of leadership from other industries that have that sort of Venn diagram crossover, be it aviation and things like that. And then the other point I would say is trust the young people within your organisations more. One of the most consistent bits of feedback I get within the Young Rail Professionals membership is that people's managers are holding them back. People want to be chucked in at the deep end, they want to swim, and they're sort of being held back because we are culturally so risk averse. Now, I'm not talking about safety critical roles. Obviously, I'm not a complete lunatic, despite what some people might think. But there is a hunger from young people to be given more responsibility and to shoulder more from what they can do. And that's culturally the baton's not being passed on at the moment. So that would be what I would suggest.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. So, plenty of practical advice there. No excuse not to engage. I'd love to open up questions from the audience now. So, and immediately, a hand up. If you've just got a mic behind you there. If you could introduce yourself, then ask your question, please.
Yeah, good morning. Chris Eady, I'm from Inter-Resilience Limited, independent consultant. I'd like to know what the panel's views are on the T-level qualifications as pathways into rail careers, and also what you think needs to be done to improve the T-level pathways into rail.
Who'd like to take that?
I'll start. So I manage our work experience, and T-levels would fall into that, and we've had a few inquiries, but it's the difficulty. So they've got to do so many hours, and we've had some that have wanted us to take somebody on a day a week for a year. But what you can practically do with somebody for that 1 day a week, because by the time you've done something with them, they've got a week to forget it, and then they've got to come back. Then we've looked at block releases. So the idea is good. It's just the practical application of how we make it relevant for them and can maximise what we can do with them at the time.
Brilliant. Thank you. Neil?
It's a poorly designed product that is doomed to success. So I'll put it another way. We have to work with it. It's like a car with 3 wheels. Is it a car or a motorbike? No, it's unstable and pointless. But if everybody's saying that's the thing we're going to have, I agree with what Caroline said, it's got some important qualities. You learn some stuff and you do some work experience. That's what we need to have. That is the right formula. It's in the wrong box. But it's in a better box than it was, and it's something that we're going to have to engage with more. Will it be attractive to the talented youngsters? No, it won't. because it's the wrong thing. It's sold in the wrong way, but there will be some talent coming through T-levels that we should engage with. So whether we like it or not, it's something that we will have to get better at dealing with and make the best of.
Tell us what you really think, Neil. My goodness. Would anyone else on the panel like to come in on that? Yep. Anything else from the audience? Just at the front here, please.
Hi, I'm Alison from Epic Consulting. So I've been quite interested in listening to what Bonnie and the wider panel have been saying about culture. So in terms of culture, how do you think the internal organisation can start to change so that people might feel that they fit as younger people coming in?
Ooh, I think that's a question for everyone. Go
So
ahead.
we've got a program. So we used to call it EDI Champion. It's now called FIR Champion, which is Fairness, Inclusion and Respect. And we do key areas, but one of those is age, and that's making people aware that just because you're an older member of staff doesn't mean you know more than young person staff. So it's balancing that to make sure people can feel empowered. And we have a lot of internal mentoring networks that will be able to help fast track people. It's not perfect yet, but it's still on the way, and it's just make sure people are recognised for their skill sets, and their skill sets are their qualifications and behaviours, not their age and their background, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I think it's like all these things, there's a few prongs to a way to sort of try and fix that issue. I think part of it, as you said already, is recognising that there is culturally an age issue.
Yep.
There's not just an age gap between those within the industry and those coming in. Frankly, it's a chasm, and it's getting wider. I think that, I've had it myself. The first possession that I led as a project manager, I had a site manager tell me I was a spotty teenager who didn't know what I was doing and refused to speak to me for the next 12 hours because he wouldn't wear his high-vis.
Wow.
And that was why I took an issue. And it's not just me, it's everyone I know in rail. They've all been dug out for their age. So I think even just admitting that there's an issue is a really good start. I'd say the next prong is actually having more roles that are paid EDI roles. People in the industry are giving up a lot of their time within their day job and within their own personal time. And I do think there should be a measurable metric that we're now pushing the industry to have more paid EDI roles per, if they link it to their overall employee metric and things like that. I think that's really important, and that should be a measurable metric of success.
Yeah. Actually making it a KPI, making it a target.
Yeah.
100% agree.
I think the big thing that everyone has to be aware of is that these things, unfortunately, they can't just change overnight. Anything that's brought in now, you probably see the benefit of it a year, 2 years down the line, because that's when the changes that you make suddenly take effect, and they're not just changes anymore, they're part of the cultural change, and a cultural change within businesses do take a little while for everyone to get on board with it. But really, it's developing the synergies between the people who have got that experience within the railway and people who are coming in to actually have that support, have that mentorship offered, and sort of continue the development of the younger people in railway, and sort of have the older generation of the railway actually seeing sort of new things as well, because as much as it will be beneficial to the younger people, it's potential to be beneficial to people who can then sort of change their viewpoint and their mindset of sort of the way that processes are undertook in the railway.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, as we've said, changing culture takes a long time. I think there is an appetite for it. I think everybody accepts that the culture does need to change, particularly if we're going to increase our workforce and have a diverse workforce. I think there's some of the older people in the industry that say it has to happen but don't really understand why it has to happen, because they really think that everything's okay the way it is, which it's really not, and it's never going to change if that's the mindset. But a lot of companies are doing a lot of work. At QTS, we are doing the Investors in Diversity accreditation, really because it is really important to us that we are an inclusive workforce and that everybody's voice is able to be heard, and that there is a good, fair culture. And we realised that we actually didn't have enough knowledge to do that ourselves. We did the quick wins, the things that everybody does, the training, the different things. But we actually didn't, we knew where we wanted to get to, but we didn't know how to get there. So we're going down the Investors in Diversity route, which I think will make a massive difference. Well, I hope it does, because I'm leading it. So if it doesn't work, I'm in trouble. But I think companies need to take it really seriously, and the culture has to change.
Yeah. Absolutely. Neil, do you want to come on this?
Culture will only change when the people at the top change. They're who needs to change, right? It's not us. We're here, right? We're here. We're engaging with it. It's the people at the top that need to change. And until they do, and until that's measured on how much they're changing, we'll not get anywhere. The second thing is when that's happened, you'll know because the people that are good at diversity will get promoted, and the people that are not very good at it will get moved to the side. They should be sacked, but we don't sack anybody, so they'll be moved to the side. So that's when it affects people's performance management. That's when we know, and at the moment it doesn't.
Okay. I think that's a very strong point for us to end the session on, really, is we need to make sure that this is an actual measurable target upon which we actually bring people into the industry. We need to make sure it's a KPI. We need to make sure we're working in partnership. We need to make sure we're working with schools, we're mentoring, and everything in between. So, brilliant.
And I'd just like to agree, it has to be top down. You have to have management buy-in, because it doesn't matter what you do. If you haven't got that management buy-in, it doesn't move forward, and that's something Absolutely. We do have. But we have a champions group, and we do lots of updates to those champions group. We need to get to update to the rest of the group, because if you're a champion, you're already in that sphere. Yeah. You need to get people that aren't in it to join it. To
Absolutely, that's the thing, isn't it? As Neil says, you're already in this room. You're already on board with this message. It's everyone else who hasn't attended this that you need to go out there and say, why weren't you in the session? You have missed some vital information here, my friend. So, brilliant. Thank you so much. Just as a side note as well, if you head over to the engineering stage after this session, if you're interested in the education topic, you will find that there is a primary engineer workshop taking place shortly. So very strongly recommend that. But in the meantime, could we please have a hand for our fantastic panel?